Today's guest was living the dream, and then things got complicated. There's a lot more to consider than people realize when it comes to vacation homes. Welcome to the show, Gail.
Thank you.
Now, would you agree with that statement?
There is a lot more to owning a vacation home.
Now, I understand that you own a vacation home south of the border. Tell me about it.
Well, we just sold it, as a matter of fact.
What?
Yes.
So how long had you owned it?
For 4 years.
And what was the big driver to sell?
The big driver to sell is partly the maintenance and the time and the cost in U.S. currency. It's very expensive.
So when you were deciding to buy this property in the first place, what appealed to you about it?
Well, at that time, the U.S. economy wasn't doing so good, so the prices were down, and I love the Oregon coast.
Oh, me too. It's the beaches just go on forever.
Yeah.
So when you were down, you fell in love with this place.
Oh,
Why
yes.
Oregon?
We toured the Oregon coast and fell in love with Cannon Beach, and it drew us back there year after year, and so we started looking at property.
Now, was your idea to buy a property down there because of investment or just personal lifestyle?
Both. We loved it so much, and we thought it would be a good investment because the prices were right at the time.
Now, would you say you got your money's worth out of it while you were there?
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. We've met so many nice people, and we've had the enjoyment of it for 4 years to make it our own.
So what were some of the big challenges you faced with owning a property south of the border?
Well, some of the challenges are the time it takes to get there, the maintenance, the cost, our health care here, you have to consider that. If something happens, we were lucky, nothing has happened, and it's been good. But, and the currency. The currency is huge now, because when we bought at par.
Oh, so now that the dollars have done what they've done, you've made a good amount of money off currency.
Yes, yes.
Did your property value go up?
Yes, it did, but we put a lot of hard work into making it go up.
Now that you've sold the property, do you have to deal with some U.S. tax issues?
A lot of tax issues, federal and state tax issues. So there's a lot of forms to be filled out and a lot of people to talk to and a lot of legal advice to get. So it's easy to buy, it's not so easy to sell.
Were you aware of that before you went into this?
No.
So you have some tips or advice for people if they're thinking of buying south of the border?
Oh yes, make sure you know what you're doing, make sure you research it before you buy.
Because after you pay the taxes at the end of the day, it takes away some of the profit.
It does.
You still had all the headache while you were running the property.
Yes.
But tell me about your best memory down there.
Oh, the best memory is just walking on the beach and being, free and making really good friends and connections for life, really.
Would you have loved to have spent more time down there?
Yes, I think, but because we're Canadian citizens, it's more difficult because you have to be aware of how long you spend down there all the time and keep track.
So you had this great dream of buying a property in this location on the beach that you fell in love with.
Yes.
But then once you started going, it takes a long time to get there. There's lots of hassles, there's maintenance, there's tax issues. Would you say it took some of the fun out of it? Was it more of a chore at the end?
Yeah, it became that because you want to keep up with everybody else that have a nice yard, and so we were always going down there and we had to work hard to keep up to that because we wanted to, maintain it properly so that we held on to our investment and made profit in the end.
And that's a thing that not everybody thinks about when buying a vacation property.
No, they don't.
Well, Gail, what's your big question for me today?
My big question is, now that we've sold, should I buy another vacation property closer to home?
Closer to home where you're not dealing with all of the cross-border issues. Well, I will help you answer that question. So don't go away. Find out if Gail should buy another vacation property after the break.
The Wealthy Life is brought to you by investment dealer Raymond James. Life well planned. See what a Raymond James advisor can do for you.
Welcome back. We're about to cover the top things to consider before buying a vacation property. So Gail, you've sold your property south of the border. You're now in a situation where you're trying to decide, should you buy another vacation home, but in Canada this time?
Yes,
I guess one of the big benefits of doing that is health insurance coverage.
for sure.
What did you do when you went south of the border? Did you just buy additional coverage?
Yeah, we bought a yearly policy so that we were covered and we didn't have to think about every single time.
That's good. And was there a limit on the number of days you could spend south of the border in that policy?
I believe it's 6 months of the year, so beyond that, you have to add up each trip
Yes.
and make sure it's not outside of that 6 months, because then that's when your health care in Canada kicks out and then you're in trouble.
And it's very important for people to be aware of that. And even how long you stay south of the border. Most people assume as long as I'm less than 6 months a year, I'm fine. But you're not. You have to add up every year for 3 years, and there's an average formula that when you get to the total number of days, it actually works out to being about 4 months per year. So that's a lot less than people think.
Yes, we kept a calendar and we circled all the days we were down there, so to keep track.
So when you bought this property, it's a hard question to maybe answer, but would you say you were more driven by the experience of it or making some money on it? What was the initial driver?
Making some money on it.
Yes. Well, if you can make money and enjoy it at the same time, you have the best of both worlds. And so when I'm coaching people through whether or not they should buy a vacation rental property, that's what we look at. How can we make both work? It is a little bit of a give and take, and I'll get into some of the specifics here in a minute. How often were you spending time down there?
We were using the beach house about once a month, 1 week a month. So 12
about 12 weeks a year?
Yeah.
Prior to buying it, how much time were you spending down there?
We'd go down about 3 or 4 times a year.
And what would you end up having to spend to stay at a hotel?
About $200 a night.
Okay, so if you were going down, even just a few times a year, spending $200 a night, you'd probably spend about $5,600 a year on hotel costs.
Right.
Sound about right?
That sounds right.
Okay. Are you spending more than that on maintenance on your property?
Yes.
So if you were to buy another vacation property, do you have a budget in mind?
Probably about $150,000 to $200,000.
Okay, well, if you had $150,000 to buy a vacation property and instead invested it and earned an average of about 5% per year over the next 20 years, because you want to be a longer time horizon, that would generate about $7,500 a year in income for you.
Wow.
And if you rented a hotel, it's only going to cost you $5,600. And you have no headaches, none of that other mess to worry about. And if you bought in Canada, you're not having to worry about the medical insurance side of things.
That sounds good.
Yeah, so that's something to consider. If you do buy a property that you can rent to help generate some rental income, and while you're in Canada, a lot easier, you're not dealing with cross-border tax issues, that can change the numbers quite a bit. But I would say, a final note for you to consider before deciding is ask yourself, are you wanting to make money at this, or are you wanting it for enjoyment? Because the financials will show you that maybe there's better options to make money than buying a vacation property. But if you're doing it for enjoyment, that's priceless.
Yes.
Well, Gail, I hope that steers you in the right direction. One final tip is if you go to thewealthylife.com, we have tools and resources on there, including a property analyzer that you can just plug in the information in the spreadsheet, and it will calculate for you whether that investment property is a good investment or not.
Thank you.
So I hope that steered you in the right direction.
Yes, it did.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. And stay tuned. Learn how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life in retirement when we return.